that moves us to number 9 on our agenda, the approval of the minutes of the June 26, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hogan?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the June 26, 2023 board meeting.
Do I have a second? Ms. Huddle? I saw Ms. Huddle's hand first, sorry. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That motion carries 7-0. And that moves us to the public participation portion of this meeting. And before we call our first name, I know we have several speakers tonight. I would just like to read a statement that says the board welcomes and encourages public participation. We respectfully ask that you adhere to the procedures provided in board policy BEDH, public participation at meetings. Your comments should be limited to 3 minutes and must remain on either the topic noted in your sign-in form or a listed agenda item. Questions asked during public participation will be handled in accordance with board policy BEDH. And I believe Ms. Taylor will call the first speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Sheena Wilson to speak about academic freedom and teachers.
Where's my buzzer, man? Oh, it's right there. I want to start over. Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak as a deeply concerned parent and taxpayer in this school district and an ally for teachers in public education. 3 minutes is not enough time to sufficiently cover my concerns with the issues that have arisen in the school district. Over the past number of years, I've seen a decline in the learning and teaching environment of the school district, along with our state and national reputation. And it is documented that members of the previous board and the current are heavily implicated in that decline. Recent unwanted attacks have been launched against an educator at Chapin High School. This educator is highly regarded and her testing performance is well above the average for the course she teaches. Given the animosity of the recent board elections and the relationship this educator has to that process, it seems quite likely that this teacher is being targeted by a small voice, politically minorities who often are not even residents of the school district. This suspicion is bolstered by the recent targeted FOIA request and the way the information in these FOIA requests has been weaponized to damage this district employee's reputation. I'm appalled that this district has repeatedly sacrificed the best interest and safety of its teachers and students so that outside political groups can impact the majority of our district children and teachers in terrible ways. This is political cowardice, not service-based leadership. It is known that school board positions are frequently viewed as springboards to greater political office, but it is shocking to see open political alignment and pressure brought by entities that are not within our district to negatively impact the educational opportunities of our students. It's embarrassing and obvious. Let me remind you, you don't work for extremist groups to fill a political agenda. You work for us. You aren't fulfilling your obligations as elected officials, and you are making a mockery of your positions. I ask that you use your positions of leadership to which you were elected to preserve the ability of our students to learn in rigorous, challenging environments that will better prepare them for the future lives in a diverse and integrated society outside of the homogeneity of their homes and hometowns. Thank you.
Sidell Gates is here to speak about an AP English class.
Greetings. I am chairwoman of the Education Committee of the Lexington branch of the NAACP and a retired school counselor. All children have a right to a free and appropriate education no matter their race or ethnicity. Certain individuals and Moms for Liberty are trying to prohibit a free and appropriate public education and divide communities as well as students with their cause. These divisive actions of a few hurt all students. Furthermore, these tactics engender the demise of the teaching profession, especially when districts are hard-pressed to hire and retain good teachers. Advanced placement courses and tests are designed by the College Board in the United States and Canada, not by the teacher or the district. Consider that college-level coursework may not be developmentally appropriate for some students, even though they may be high-achieving. Students and parents choose enrollment in AP courses. Teachers provide syllabi at the beginning of the term. Hence, school leadership, students, and parents are aware of the course content, including supplementary material and assignments. There is no doubt that allowing a few individuals and Moms for Liberty to thwart the good of all students for no other reason than feelings would certainly cause far more harm than the AP English course assignment in question. How about other ethnicities in the district, such as African American, Hispanic, Asian, and those of multiple races, and others who considered their feelings during the teaching of sensitive historical topics such as slavery, the Civil War, the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the American Southwest, and others? Will a few and Moms for Liberty cause the total disregard of the rights of all of these students? Will the district leadership acquiesce? I pray not. We applaud Ms. Wood for being an advocate for the education of all students and her noble service. We strongly support her. She must be reinstated and restored to full employment status immediately. She has demonstrated excellence with resulting in consistent, strong test scores. We thank the board for this opportunity, and we remind you of your commitment to the success of all students and retaining excellent teachers for them. We urge you, retain Ms. Wood. Thank you, teachers, for your commitment to the education of all students.
Patrick Funk is here to speak about the controversial topics policy.
I'm Patrick Funk, father of 2 children in District 5 and former Chapin High English teacher of 17 years. The previous school year was my last with the district, and I hope to explain a little about why. When I started in 2006, I inherited an English 2 curriculum that opened with Sophocles' ancient Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex. This play, long accepted as a literary classic, tells the story of Oedipus, who becomes king of Thebes upon saving its people and marrying their queen. Unfortunately, in his pursuit of the throne, Oedipus unknowingly kills his father and marries his mother, with whom he has 4 children. In order to rid his kingdom of a terrible plague, Oedipus is forced to reckon with his true identity, uncomfortable as it may be. In the end, Oedipus gouges out his eyes and banishes himself from the kingdom, this after learning his wife/mother, inconsolable, has committed suicide. The play's major events center around incest, violence, and self-harm. Despite this community's seeming objections to controversial materials, I've never seen a challenge to this piece of work, despite it being taught regularly at high schools across the district. Obviously, I'd never promote any of these ideas, nor would any teacher I've ever met. And perhaps you're wondering why teach a play like this? Why read something that makes us uncomfortable? Why bother with tragedy at all, let alone tragedy that involves such grisly details? Aeschylus, another notable Greek playwright, wrote that wisdom comes through suffering. When we are comfortable, we're not likely to learn much. If today was good today, repeat the same tomorrow. But when life gets difficult, we learn a lot. In fact, the purest tragedy is one in which our suffering is empty and begets no knowledge, instead festering into bitterness, hate, or resentment. Oedipus suffers a lot, but he will never get at the truth without this discomfort. And the truth, as uncomfortable as it may be, is what sets his people free. This is why we continue to teach Oedipus, not because of the lurid details, but because the play shows us that education and discomfort are inseparable and necessary for intellectual freedom, a thing that anyone promoting liberty ought to champion. Policy that puts student comfort, especially as vaguely defined in this district's current policy, above their need to learn, is doomed to fail since it undermines the uncomfortable process of education altogether. Critical thinking requires us to hold different ideas in different lights with a willingness to explore them earnestly. Critical thinking and exposure to a wide variety of ideas, some uncomfortable, are not the ingredients of indoctrination, they are its antidotes.
Yes.
I left D5 after watching the public excoriation of my colleagues for attempting to do such noble things as challenge students to be better critical thinkers. These teachers, rather than being celebrated, have been unfairly maligned and misrepresented both by members of the community and members of the school board. Until they offer full-throated support for their educators, D5 will continue to hemorrhage them. For our educational system to be viable, the ability to challenge students must be part of the support. David Foster Wallace wrote that the truth will set you free, but not until it's finished with you. It's not finished here in D5, and it won't be so long as we're too frightened to stare it down. Thank you.
David Jenkins is here to speak about supporting teachers.
Good evening, and I want to be very clear that I'm here to support teachers. I love teachers, and we see them. I don't know who would want to be a teacher in this day and age, the way we treat them. My family, my kids have been in this district as in elementary school, in middle school, and high school. My daughter just graduated from Irmo High. My son is going to be a sophomore at Irmo High this fall. And they have benefited from tremendous educators and staff in this district. And I am very proud of the staff that we have. Me personally, I've been impacted by educators all my life. My kids have been impacted. My wife has been impacted. I cannot say enough to support our educators. Do educators need oversight? We're not arguing that they don't. But I have plenty of faith. Everything I've seen gives me faith that our educators are trained and they have the best interests of our students at heart. And I leave it in their hands. And I'm really happy that with the experience we've had. We all are going to encounter ideas that we find disagreeable, but a healthy society is one that can evaluate those ideas and discuss them and not dismiss them offhand. I want to reiterate that I support teachers, that I love teachers, and that our society is better for teachers and our nation is better for teachers. Thank you.
Beth Biedenbow is here to speak about concerns about following the challenge policy.
Good evening. My name is Beth Biedenbaugh. I am a retired teacher of Lexington Richland 5. Over my 33 years as an educator, I taught language arts and South Carolina history, so I know how to teach a novel and U.S. history. As a parent and a teacher, I am here to share my concerns over the incident with the novel at Chapin High. When a novel is taught, vocabulary is introduced to students so that students can understand the ideas that will be presented. In this case, the term was systemic racism. This is not, I repeat, not the teaching of critical race theory. This is how a novel is taught. You as a board and administrator should support good teaching practices, which this is. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves and largely because of things like this. Number 2, never take a novel out of kids' hands, especially after it's already been handed out. Number 3, follow the district policy for challenging books. If a parent or student challenges a book, then they should have to follow the procedure of filling out an official challenge form and present it to the powers that be, not just send an email. Then the district-appointed committee can meet to decide if the challenged book should continue to be used in D5. Currently, I believe the book is removed until the committee meets. This is wrong. Why should one challenge lead to the immediate removal of a book? Why should one parent be able to decide for someone else's child what they can or cannot read? Most parents support and trust teachers in these decisions, and the superintendent, administrators, and you, the board, should support them as well. Some parts of history should make kids uncomfortable. I am a proud American, and there are many things in our history that we should be proud of, but there are also many things in our history that are not good. In fact, they're quite horrible. I, as a teacher, wanted my kids to feel bad or to feel uncomfortable. Why? Because this creates empathy, which hopefully will help prevent the bad parts of our history from repeating itself. When teaching slavery and the civil rights movement, my students were horrified that African Americans were treated this way. Some would even be moved to tears as details became specific. But this was a good thing because they saw how horrible specific events were. My students became empathetic toward their plight and would then vow that history would not repeat itself. If kids don't learn about the difficult stuff, if they don't become uncomfortable, history will repeat itself. If slaves, Native Americans, Jews, the Little Rock Nine, Ruby Bridges, women's suffragettes, and other groups can endure what they did, then our kids can most certainly learn about it, no matter how uncomfortable it makes them, because that, ladies and gentlemen, keeps us from repeating the bad parts of history. That is how we become a better country. We, all of us, need to trust and support our teachers, not cower to the loud minority. Thank you.
Kathy Hogan is here to speak about censorship and freedom of expression.
I'm not sure I can follow Beth. But I'm going to give it a try because I feel passionately about this. I really appreciate your remarks, Dr. Ross, and the remarks made by Mr. Satterfield about this issue. But I think we still need to think about the politics that are involved here, because I'm appalled at what happened. Last month you heard from local politicians who didn't come in the interest of District 5. They came here to win some support from their conservative voters, and in the process they smeared the reputation of a gifted teacher. Yes. They claimed that the assigned book promoted Marxist ideas that undermine America's founding documents. This book is not about Marxism. I read it. Have you read it? I hope you all have read it. I read it twice. I might read it a third time. African American writers and leaders want the fulfillment of the promises made in the Declaration of Independence. If we truly want to give students the opportunity to be free of indoctrination, we must support teachers who challenge their students to think for themselves, as did Mr. Wood. The partisan nature of this attack was evidenced again by the subsequent censure of Chairman Hines by the Lexington County GOP for not demanding the immediate dismissal of Ms. Wood, even though that would be a violation of board policy. Thank you, Chairman Hines. I appreciate your valuing the process. It is all about due process. I hope you all are committed to following board policy. Teachers make difficult instructional decisions every day. I know, I was in the classroom and taught AP US history, and boy, there were some difficult days. And they may be challenged by students who fear that they can't rise to that challenge. They literally, they're a little intimidated by the difficulty of the course. And we can't let that stand in their way of learning. As Ms. Biedenbaugh said, or somebody said, I can't even remember, but they well noted the fact that that she introduced the assignment by showing 2 short videos, and they were about getting the kids ready. So again, and I believe as well that if students are uncomfortable, that's a good thing. I appreciate that. Somebody's already remarked that the students and their parents should go first to the teacher and then the principal and follow their concerns. Any teacher will provide an alternate assignment that the students who are intimidated by the assignment may then go to. So I want you to just consider the fact that we need to stay out of politics. We need to be careful about what we write. And there is still racism and inequity in our world, and our kids need to do something about it. Yes. So we got to train them to do it. So thank you all, you teachers.
Mallory Green is here to speak about banning books without following proper procedure.
Hi, my name is Mallory Green. I'm 14 years old. Hello to the board members. My parents taught me to be a critical thinker. Not every student in this district has that luxury. Between the World and Me was banned because it talks about issues that make people uncomfortable. We cannot become critical thinkers without being uncomfortable in some way. If students can't learn these things in a safe space like school, how are we, meant to make good decisions and think critically? We need to be exposed to diverse perspectives and points of view different from our past experiences own. I'm about to enter high school and have yet to have encountered a major piece of literature written by a person of color as required reading in any of my District 5 classes. Without the guidance of our teachers and parents, many of us would only be as well informed about racial issues as the odd video we encounter on social media. There's an excerpt in Between the World and Me where the author, Ta-Nehisi Coates, speaks about his childhood in Baltimore. Coates talks about how he grew up thinking of the United States like a galaxy. He contrasts the idyllic white suburbia on the TV with his own world. I live on the other side of Coates' childhood galaxy. I've grown up privileged and comfortable. Being able to be exposed to these other points of view brings awareness, not shame. However, if the school district continues to censor these important outlooks, we'll become blind to them. There is shame in that.
Josh Gray is here to speak about censorship and support for teachers.
Man, I feel like everything I wanted to say has been halfway said already. My time started yet? There we go. So, yeah, I think I know most of you up here. I assume you have received my emails, and I appreciate the responses that I have received. I'm here tonight to speak as a member of this community and a taxpayer in this district. I am an educator myself, and I am the child of a public educator. My mother taught for 27 years at Northside Middle School over in West Columbia. Like many others behind me, I'm here tonight to speak in support of public education, public educators, teachers, faculty, staff, administration, students, and the communities that they serve. And I am specifically here around the same issue, to support the teacher at Chapin High School in the middle of this political controversy that has largely been kicked up because of local, state, and national political groups bringing this to bear. We saw them last board meeting. Many of them are not in our district. And they claim to speak on behalf of the community and families. So I'm a person in this community. I'm a taxpayer. They do not speak for me. They do not speak for a lot of people behind me. I'd like to make that clear. A few other things, I saw the presentation, Dr. Ross, and I appreciated that. I started out taking some notes, but my perception and what I understand is that policy was not followed. And I think that's the problem. Right, is that a small number of students are able to effectively censor a lesson for the entire school district. That is a problematic position. No matter where you stand, bye-bye calculus, bye-bye geometry, right? If it's a question of my subjective anguish, you can't tell me what makes me feel anguished. Later, that is a really, really difficult thing. I also want to mention, that in the last, speaking of history, in our last election, 4 of the seats were won by 3 candidates who were not particularly politically extreme. And, I think that is something that you all should pay attention to as well. When these guys show up and they yell at you, started with COVID, they yell at you, watching you. Well, we're watching you too. We voted you into office, and I think you should remember that. I want to close this by saying my understanding of school boards is this is supposed to be essentially an oversight group for education. It's not, as many people behind me said, it's not meant to be a political litmus test, it's not meant to be a political springboard. I guess I ask that you keep in mind, as you contemplate whatever policy you're going to put in place around these issues or policy changes, the things you do and say are going to reflect, they're going to reflect on you, but who's going to really carry this forward to the kids in our district? They're the ones that have to go out and compete national and internationally. And I can tell you as a redneck who has worked all over the world and with people from all over the world, don't make the perception that they have to go out and compete against worse by actions like this that do not reflect well on our community. It is not helping those students. Thank you for your time. Have a nice night.
Tess Pratt is here to speak about CRT.
My name is Tess Pratt, and I'm the English Department Chair at Chapin High School. Every time that a member of our community addresses the board and supports the narrative that teachers are teaching CRT or indoctrinating our students, our hearts grow so heavy. Think about what they are suggesting, that we are repeatedly stating beliefs or ideas to our students until they accept them without criticism or question. That's indoctrination. This is completely antithetical to what we do each and every day in our English classrooms. Our state standards require that our students engage in inquiry, transact with texts, consider multiple perspectives, collaborate with peers, analyze, synthesize, form conclusions, cite evidence, and determine meaning. This is literally what we do every day in our classrooms. With regards to CRT, as the department head at Chapin High School, I can assure you that our school has never had any professional development or training on CRT. We have not dedicated a single leadership meeting, faculty meeting, or Wednesday planning to CRT training or implementation. We have never discussed it at an English department meeting except to ask what it is, because we've been accused of teaching it. I've never seen CRT mentioned in any of our administrative communications. CRT is not a thing at Chapin High School. Mary Wood taught Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, an appropriate text for an AP level classroom. It was I who ordered the book for her class. It was approved by administration the previous year and taught without incident. Her use of this book supports the AP requirement of multiple perspectives as related to studying argument and developing skills for civil discourse. Furthermore, all questions posed related to the text and supplementary materials invited students to give their own opinions, while also analyzing for rhetorical elements, making connections to other texts, and posing interpretive and analytical questions. She is an excellent AP teacher, as is evidenced by her 82.6% pass rate in 2022 and 80% pass rate in 2023, far surpassing the global pass rate of 55.7%. In closing, I became a high school English teacher 34 years ago because I believe that every human being has a story. I believe that every story deserves to be told. I believe that we are connected by our stories, and that without these shared stories, we would be a world without empathy. I have dedicated my entire life to sharing such stories, both fiction and nonfiction, with my students. I have shared my own stories with my students throughout these years and invited them to do the same with me. On the day that I took Ta-Nehisi Coates' books out of the hands of Miss Wood's students, I silenced his story.
Ms. Pratt.
Even though
your
this was
time
a
is up.
decision that was not mine, I will regret that moment in front of those students for the rest of my life because it was wrong.
Ms. Pratt.
Dr. Lauren Gare is here to speak about supporting teachers, administration, and district leaders.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Lauren Gare. I'm an English teacher at Dutch Fork High School, the head cheerleading coach at Chapin Middle School, and the mom of a future kindergartner at River Springs Elementary. I'm here tonight to encourage the board to trust the process. Trust our district leaders and teachers to uphold the policies already in place for questioning curriculum, and to leave curriculum planning in the hands of professionals where it should be. I ask the board to follow their own policies and not their personal beliefs. If our community members and parents want to be stakeholders in their children's education, encourage them to follow policy and engage in civil communication about educational concerns through the proper channels. Our district office leaders, our school administrators, and our teachers are amazing. We work together and use our experience in education to create instructional material that is rigorous and challenging, because that is what we are trained to do. Aside from Dr. Ross, only one of you on the school board has been a teacher before. He has 33 years in education in almost every single cluster in our district. Except for him, though, none of y'all are educators. None of y'all went to college to be educators. The only people that should be deciding what should be taught in a classroom and is good instruction are teachers. What the school board should do is enforce policies to support educators, district and school leaders, and the diverse learners of our district. Support teachers, especially when there is a crippling teacher shortage, and it would be irresponsible to engage in rhetoric and policy making that will lose even more teachers. Teachers don't keep their curriculum choices a secret. We create a syllabus every year that details policies and procedures in our classroom and the specific text that we are going to teach. I taught an AP class once, and I had to get it approved not only by my API, but by the college board as well. Our syllabus statements are not secret. We email them and we post them to our website. If you want to know what's going on in a classroom, pay attention or just ask. As a district, we already have policies in place for students and parents to reach out, as Dr. Ross mentioned. When you receive concerns from community members over curriculum, please encourage them to follow the policy that you guys already have in place. We are a district for public education. Our current policies support the education of all students, not just the beliefs of a few. I trust current D5 policy as a teacher and a mother. I trust the English teacher at Chapin with over 14 years of experience and a master's degree in teaching. I trust the English department at Chapin High because in the past 6 years that I've been here, they have not only created a district teacher of the year, but also a state teacher of the year. I trust the whole district, all of our leaders and teachers, because they educate thousands of students from all backgrounds and all schools. I trust the process because the success is clear. If you truly want to know what's going on in our classrooms, have frequent conversations with educators from all across our district, not just certain schools. And as always, as I ask you guys when I come before you, please come and visit my classroom anytime to see the great things that are happening at Dutch Fork High School. Thank you.
Kristen Devers is here to speak about supporting teachers.
Hi, my name is Kristen Devers. I have been an educator for 20 years with experience in elementary, middle, and high school, serving as both a teacher and an administrator during this time period. However, I started my hardest job in 2011 when my daughter was born. I spent over 10 years and thousands of dollars earning academic degrees to teach me how to be an educator. You become a parent, they send you home with a couple of brochures and some good luck wishes. I remember looking at her when she was born and experiencing this overwhelming feeling of love and desire to protect her. And it's scary. You're responsible for a human now. When they're small, you're terrified you're going to break them just by putting their pajamas on. And as they get bigger, you buy everything on the market to safeguard your house. Before you know it, they start daycare or school, and it's the first time you have to trust someone to take care of this little human that belongs to you. I'll be honest, I cried on her first day with a sitter. She didn't. Each experience is a first-time parent's new, but we learn. It's uncomfortable at times. And during this parenting journey, we get advice from our family, our pediatrician, our church, our friends, parenting groups, parent groups on social media. We learn from all these sources. And ultimately, we construct the knowledge on our own that's needed to be successful parents. A child's learning process, it happens in much the same way. Parents and educators share the same goal of keeping children safe, and we both provide them with valuable resources along their learning journey. Educators facilitate learning by teaching children to think critically, to analyze information, to communicate their thoughts, to collaborate with others, and present their ideas. Parents and teachers should be one team with the overall goal of ensuring the success of children. Learning is and should be challenging. Students need to confront ideas in all subjects, wrestle with difficult questions, think critically, and construct their own knowledge. For learning to be transformative, it will be uncomfortable at times. When we never expose our children to ideas other than our own, we are depriving them of the opportunities to learn from others. Just like when we became a parent, we learned from others. It was super uncomfortable at first because everything was new. We owe our children the same opportunities to learn about the world they live in and its history, even though it may be uncomfortable at times. Unfortunately, censoring books and instruction based on the political agendas of a few takes away these opportunities for children. I only want the decisions about what my child can learn being made by professional educators like the ones in this district and surrounding districts. I do not want to witness more qualified educators exiting the profession because we've taken away their professional autonomy. The number of teaching vacancies rose by 39% this past school year. By February, 800 more teachers had left the profession. I want to see educators staying in the profession and a safe and diverse learning environment for all.
Jennifer Rice is here to speak about controversial, sensitive issues.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jennifer Rice. I'm a proud graduate of Irmo High School and proud parent of teen girls who attend a D5 high school. I'm young, but yet a first-generation student who is educated at integrated schools. my children's grandparents did not receive the same opportunities that my children now receive. Dr. Ross and Mr. Satterfield basically said everything I wanted to say. Please follow district policy, support teachers, help support students' thoughts to arrive at independent conclusions. I spoke with my daughters about the situation that occurred at Chapin High School, and they said they would feel forgotten if the same situation occurred in their classroom. When I asked one to come speak, she stated, and I quote, she didn't want to receive hate from 50-year-olds on social media. It's so sad that a 15-year-old realizes she could face social media criticism from adults for having a different viewpoint. When we don't teach our children to think for themselves, we create divisive robots. I remember feeling very uncomfortable in a District 5 classroom when during a discussion about slavery, a classmate commented that slaves were happy. I was one of the few students of color in that room, and I vividly remember my classmates looking for me to respond. Was I uncomfortable? Yes. Did I grow from that situation? Absolutely. I was also able to educate my classmates with a different perspective. I want my children to be challenged to think for themselves. I want them to feel heard and learn how to express themselves. I want my children to have teachers who feel supported and encouraged, not demonized. I also know my limitations and do not want to educate my children myself because I don't see how anyone wants to teach anymore. Thank you to the teachers, thank you to the board for supporting these teachers, and thank you to all the parents that are here tonight.
Josh Malkin is here to speak about books are good.
Good evening. My name is Josh Malkin. I'm a former educator and now the senior advocacy strategist for the ACLU of South Carolina. I will say books are good is an official ACLU policy statement. I first read Between the World and Me before I entered my own classroom. It challenged me as I struggled to understand the author's lived experience, which was so different from my own. Coke's letter to his 15-year-old son does exactly what many good books are written to do. It opened my eyes to a different world, a world that had existed alongside my own for my entire life, but that I had never been forced to see. During my years in the classroom, my experiences with my students helped me see this world and better understand the advice that Coates offered his son. Seth, wearing his school sweatshirt, was prevented from observing a debate tournament. Tim was pushed from school to prison by a zero-tolerance policy that valued the tidiness of his uniform more than his love of science. Arzu was killed, unable to escape the systems that ensnare far too many young black men. I saw the world my students had to navigate. I have seen the data. I have read uncomfortable books. I believe systemic racism exists. Dr. King's dream has not yet been realized. I've heard the viewpoints of those that disagree. They are not convincing, but this is America, and we have the right to disagree. We must remember, however, that truly hearing viewpoints different from our own pushes us, perhaps uncomfortably, but pushes us to be better thinkers, better debaters, better problem solvers, better people. Between the World and Me presents us all with a vital challenge. Listen to this passage from the book. I propose to take our countrymen's claim of American exceptionalism seriously, which is to say I propose subjecting our country to an exceptional moral standard. This is difficult because there exists all around us an apparatus urging us to accept American innocence at face value and not to inquire too much. I am troubled that people feel that these ideas are dangerous and need to be erased or hidden, that our children shouldn't inquire too much. I am troubled that this district decided to stop this educator's lesson, both for the students who were denied an opportunity to process a new idea and those denied the opportunity to have their reality seen. I am troubled that there are those demanding that this educator should be fired for presenting an idea. If we are going to prevent our rising leaders from thinking critically, we must worry about their ability to solve the complex problems of the present and future. If we are going to punish our educators for presenting ideas that make them uncomfortable, we must be gravely concerned about the fundamentally American free marketplace of ideas. If we are going to acquiesce every time those in power call for the suppression of ideas and thought, we must worry about the future of our democracy. I imagine most of you did not expect to find yourself in this moment. This moment requires you all to do what is right by the students of this district, even if it is unpopular. I hope this board can meet this moment. I thank you for your time.
And with that speaker, that concludes public participation.